Hey, what is going on, guys? This should be jumping from the intro and vanilla to now. This is the load order for the Skyrim PlayStation overhaul. I'm just going to show it. And as I go through it, I just wanted to talk about a couple of mods and highlight them a bit, talk about them, and what makes them so uh, absolutely needed in this mod list. Like, these mods probably never going to leave the list for any reason. So right off the top, you just have your unofficial Skyrim patches. This keeps the game from bugging out too much. Of course, Skyrim is Skyrim, so it's hard to differentiate between a game bug and a mod bug. This helps sort that out just a bit. Survival rebalance, keep the game a little more fair. Character editor, I know a lot of people want to make their characters more special, more unique, and this just helps with that. The first mod I want to highlight is Simple Races and Stones by Sir Ruin. This mod specifically because I've tried so many different race mods and standing stone mods, and it being a merge of two to save that extra mod slot really helps. But the race changes and the standing stone races are, I think, the best combination I've seen. It's like a mix of Simon Maggis's, I believe it's Andromeda, and so all of the effects are pretty basic. Nothing to confuse you or make playing a specific race um, specifically overpowered or anything. And then the standing stones each have their own unique purpose. My absolute favorite, right off the top, I just got to say the ritual stone. I've never seen a mod do this before, and it's my absolute favorite. The ritual stone changes, so now you have health regen, bonus damage to undead, and you take less damage from undead. And as someone that likes to play Witcher types and Paladin types and Undead Hunter types, this mod is just absolutely perfect, and it's never leaving my mod list. This is just a little quick one I'd like to throw in by Cyan49. This just changes the look of certain armors and weapons to be a little more metallic and shiny. It's very, very minimal. You can drop this if you need the mod space, but I think once you get used to the style and the look of things, it'll be hard to go back. And then right off the top, we have these five mods. I wanted to highlight these five mods. No Way Jose by Beast Riviera, Haste Tweak by Danny Q 1998, and then these guild requirements. These mods are very important to the overall structure of the Skyrim PlayStation overhaul because it's going to slow the game down in an organic way and not let you just rush through the new CC quests or the Dark Brotherhood, stuff like that. You won't find Azura's Star in a chest just randomly. The beacon has been found, you know. My favorite of them, Haste has so many changes, it's hard to really cover everything. It does so many different little things. Um, like my favorite being that you won't see cultists from Dragonborn DLC until you've acquired all three words of Unrelenting Force, which just helps in the early game. The companions and Thieves Guild and Mage Guild requirements are just very simple and immersive. I like that you won't be accepted into a magical college unless you know 10 spells. Just makes more sense to me. And will help people stop metagaming and just play the game as it is. A couple more mods going down. These are just adding new magic. I wanted to highlight some of the new magic we have. The expanded spell pack, just to give some more variety. I wanted restoration and sun spells to have a little more options, some smites and whatnot. Magic Utilities is a very awesome mod. This just adds new ways to approach combat with magic. You'll have magic wands, and this actually combines well with the Magic Wand mod by Cyan49, which I may or may not use at some point. I just like staves personally. My favorite part of this mod, honestly, is the equipable grimoires, which are just equipable books that can give you a buff. I think it's really cool if you're a mage to have a destruction book equipped to you that is boosting your destruction magic. This mod would also pair well with another mod I saw here that has spells cast from a book, but the animation for it's a little ugly in third person. And then these are just your level lists. If you're going off of the cheat sheet, you'll notice that we are started with tweaks. Then we have our race changes and editors, and then we have these are all tweaks too. I might bump these. I might bump this down. Yeah, we don't need that there. We can just bump these down. See, the list is always moving. It's always changing. I might bump this down just because. Those are uh, tweaks and such, and then we have level list changes, curated curiosity, merchantware, simply more variety. This is going to make it so you see the new CC items and you see items that are relevant to your level, and in the shops to have expanded inventories that are more in line with lore, you could say. This is a really small mod. It's very cool. I just want to throw this in there. Equipment and loot and shops just makes a little more sense. You find bandits working in a dungeon on a smithing table, and it would make more sense that they might have gear laying around that's been smithed and have higher quality stuff, along with shops. A smith should be selling you an iron mace that's exquisite because he worked on it. It makes a lot more sense. Mysticism is the best magic mod. You just gotta have it. There's no doubt about it. Altars of Skyrim will just make getting those buffs from the divines a little more meaningful and a little more variety to them. And this will just help round out builds and stuff. There's so many options for character builds. Like, it's just insane. You can make anything you want work. You want to start as a farmer and work your way up and be really good at using a dagger and a bow because you're a hunter. There's 10 different ways that you're going to get bow buffs and knife buffs, and the early game won't feel as brutal because you'll have the option to gain money and followers in new ways. Wilds of Skyrim is another mod I want to highlight. This is also by Danny Q, 1998, and it is a overworld overhaul along the lines of something like Civil War patrols and immersive citizens. I'm using this one to help test it, but also because the philosophy behind it, I think, is a lot more interesting than, say, the Civil War patrols mod. Simply put, this, unlike other overworld mods that add NPCs, will give NPCs that are added schedules, I believe is the goal. You'll see these are all the different things that have been added. You still get your faction patrols, you still get all that. You're not missing out on anything. There will be new encounters with animals and bandits and such. Basically what it is that when you're walking from place to place, you almost never see anybody unless you're getting one of those random Bethesda encounters, and this will just increase the amount of people that you see on the roads and the encounters that you come across, so you might just be witness to. And there's tons more going to be added, but I think once it gets in its final phases, it'll be pretty unique and a must-have mod, especially when you combine it with the visual and overworld enhancements that we have. So walking from hold to hold will just have so much variety. Every place you go will have new things to look at and people to encounter. Definitely got to highlight Cyan 49's mod bundle here, along with his attacking, blocking, and casting movement mod. The gameplay mod bundle is essentially the core of the Skyrim PlayStation overhaul. It's where it all started. This package has so many mods in it, and each one is just so perfect in what it does. There's no other mods like these mods that you're seeing here. Choose Your Talent is going to let you select what skill trees that you want to use in your game. Are you tired of having every single thing be available to you? Are you like me and you don't want to use Conjuration? You can choose what trees you want to use, and whichever ones you don't give you a bonus to the ones that you have selected. So you're rewarded for picking a specialty, essentially, and you won't have to, if you're accidentally casting conjuration spells, you're not going to gain experience in that anymore. It's just flat. It stops gaining all levels. The combat overhaul is very encompassing. You can dual wield block. You have finishing moves. You have reflecting and parrying. You can start a swing against someone that's swinging at you and deflect their attack. there's just so many systems in place that aren't confusing and they aren't overdone. The game still plays like Skyrim, but now you just have a couple more options available to you in combat. You can block an attack, you can dual wield block, you can try to go for a parry and hope that it goes off. If you can get your opponent's health and stamina depleted enough from parrying and using your movement that you could get an instant finishing move on him. Almost like a Doom aspect to it. Uh, and I wanted to highlight this mod, mainly these two actually, immersive movement and attack blocking and casting. Now, I've gone through a lot of testing with these, and they're in this particular order. Um, and I'm still testing it. Originally, I was using Vigor, I believe it was called, or Athletic. I was using Athletic Combat, which gave you a massive running boost. Um, and it made the game very intense, as enemies could run just as fast as you. And when you combine it with a combat AI like the combat AI I was using, that was also made by Cyan 49, I just switched to this one. Um, it felt a little unfair. You couldn't outmaneuver your opponent, and their ability to swing and run was just hard to keep up with the new systems put in place by You Must Die 2. Uh, so these two mods in this order, what it'll do is slow you down. Just your walking and running speed is incredibly slow at the very start of the game. It's a little more immersive. Putting on heavy armor and carrying heavy things will slow you down. And then using certain weapon types also slows you down. Um, Attacking, blocking, and casting movement does the same thing essentially, but what some mods do is they don't differentiate between one-handed and two-handed. And so when you combine these two, you have one-handed maces swinging slower than one-handed swords and daggers. You have two-handed swords swinging faster than a two-handed axe, but your movement is also slowed by that. So you have to pay attention to your range. You have to know what weapon your opponent's using. You have to know what weapon you're using, and play around it. But without it being detrimental to your experience and to make it more easily accessible to players, as you gain levels and you find new items and new equipment, your movement speed will change. And there are many items that'll change your movement speed. And once you start applying these bonuses to actual combat, you'll find yourself weaving in and out of your opponent's range and being more and more effective over time. Realistic combat AI is in testing phases at the moment. I've just started using this mod, so I can't speak to it specifically. Cyan 49 also made a combat AI mod that I was using and was sticking with because of the philosophy behind it was to keep enemies from bashing too much, keep them aggressive, and to play a little bit smarter. And what Danny Q99 1998 has done here is essentially a lot of the same things, but the difference is he wants his AI to play a bit more defensive and without losing their aggressiveness. And I just find fights a lot more tactile. My opponent's circling me. They're not running at me. They're not holding their shield up, so I can't go for an instant stun lock bash. But when I try to swing, suddenly they're blocking and trying to bash me out. And with Cyan 49's You Must Die 2, you will be stunned and staggered just like enemies, unless you want to change that and make it a little bit easier on yourself, which I do. I make it easy on myself a lot. Some more audio mods. As you'll see, we're going down the list. Audio mods, I may swap down towards the bottom, just because these two are very minuscule changes. I think they could just be slotted towards the bottom for the sake of cleaning up the top, which I might do. But for now, they'll stay where they are. The next mods I wanted to highlight are these notice board quests by Cyan 49. I think this combination of mods is going to add so much to your game and make you want to play it more and enjoy playing the way that you want to play. When the AE update first came out and I heard about fishing and survival, I wanted to make a fisherman type character, but just found myself standing in water and not having any fun questing or fishing and gaining anything from it. What this does is there are going to now be notice board quests at inns around different holds that have very different jobs on it. Some collecting firewood to hunting down bandits. Radiant is going to add new repeatable Radiant quests, so you can deliver jewelry or pick up a potion and drop it off to someone else and just have more options for gaining money. Notice board and Radiant will give you more options for gaining money. Honest work is the ability to now sell things to NPCs you normally wouldn't have, adding to the immersion. Like, as a fisherman type character, I could get a bunch of fish and then go to the docks in Riften and find a fisherman and sell him all the fish that I have and gain a bunch of money from it, which will help the early game, help you acquire items, help you build your character more and more. I think once these two just came out and are still in testing phases, but put all three of them together and you have a very fun, interesting early game that causes you to explore all over and get new locations down. And we're going to continue the list. Now we're getting into overworld changes. These are the general, all of Skyrim changes, and we want these to load higher up top to make sure that they work. I'm having an issue with bandit camps. I'm hoping to solve. I'm not sure what causes it, but the bandit camps that are added are on the map. Now, they're not discovered, so you can't fast travel to them. Also, if you're playing on survival mode, you won't be able to fast travel to them. But they are on the map already, which I don't like, and I'm not sure what's causing it. They should be hidden, I believe. I'm going to try to message the author and see if there's a version he can upload which hides them off the map, or if it's a bug I'm experiencing. If anybody else could test it out and let me know, that'd be great. So here we have overworld changes. Legendary creatures is going to add a lot of new items and bosses to the game, just hard end game type bosses. There's a specific focus on the middle to end game where a lot of people have already powered up so much that the game is a wash. The mods like this help make that end game a little more fun. You have more things to go for, you have new items to find, and they will help increase your build and make it more diverse itself. Personally, I'm going after a troll that has savage troll gauntlets because I love to play unarmed. And they have an unarmed damage increase and health bonus. I'm going to have to find those. These mods are... these are the overworld changes right here, just these mods. And then we're getting down straight into new items. This is a new item, but it technically has an overworld change. That's why it's where it is. There are changes to the Silent Moons camp, so we want to make sure it's a little bit higher than most. This is a new mod that adds a merchant NPC to locations. So we want those merchants to load in, and we have a lot of mods that change city interiors and exteriors. So we want this mod to load higher in hopes that it will force the new merchants to be where they should be. I want to highlight another great mod here. This is part of the new guilds package that I should have mentioned before. You have the Mages Guild, you have the Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, and the Companions. But CC also added, you have a fishing guild now. This mod, Bardic Arts, is going to improve the Bard's College to the point it'll feel like a guild. There are quests to complete, there are items to get. There's a new unique mechanic that I love, which adds Bardic inspiration to random chests. So you will sometimes come across this Bardic inspiration, collect a couple, and you can spend it on these haiku-type scrolls that are just for you, and as a way to remember how you got the Bardic inspiration. I just think it adds a lot to how a person plays and remembers their own experiences. And also with that, towards the bottom, you'll see I have Ports of Call, which is going to add a pirate-type guild. It's just a little more endgamey. There's ways to gain tons of gold. There's ways to level up your character using gold. There's new houses, new companions, new items. There's a ship. Hopefully, at some point, I'm going to trim the list down a bit and add in some of the mods Cyan49 has made to make the ship a little bit more pirate-like with random ship attacks that you can fight off using the harpoons and stuff like that. It's very, very cool. Then we just have these are also part of interiors. We moved all interior dungeons and such to this area right here. These mods are usually not affected by anything because they're their own specific area. But we do want them up higher to make sure that they're loading properly. And these two are going to add so much to your game. I spent a whole hour on Google in a dungeon trying to figure out why I had no idea where I was, only to realize that it was this mod. The dungeons in this mod particularly are so clean and fit in the vanilla style of how all the dungeons in Skyrim were made that you can't even tell the difference between the mod and what is part of vanilla Skyrim. This is a mod that will allow you to gain perk points through Dragon Souls. There are two other mods I plan on adding back into the list that will increase your shouts and your stats like health and mana depending on how many Dragon Souls you collect. The point of this is part of that end game where we have a lot of mods to increase the dragons respawning. We want tons of dragons to fight, and they're not going to be easy. You're going to be running from them the majority of the game. We're going to make them scarier. We're going to make them look different, so you have to fight new kinds and discover new ways to beat them. And hopefully that they're a hard enough end game recurring challenge that you can build up these Dragon Souls to get more perk points and get stats if you want to keep them. You can choose between more perks or more raw stats, and it'll give you something else to grind towards. Part of the game is that the dragons are back, but you really only have to fight like 4 dragons total or something like that to beat the game. We want there to be tons and tons of dragons. The perk overhaul of choice is Adamant. I am working on a port of Valkyrie, and the testing phases for that are difficult. So for the time being, I've slotted in Adamant and Mysticism as they are for anyone that doesn't want to take part in a buggy, broken mod. Use these, you'll have a great experience. These mods are perfect. They will make your game much more interesting and you'll have so much to discover using them. And we want to add even more. We want to give the player more bonuses. There are new bonuses from gods. There are new perks, new magic, new locations that can give bonuses, new food items. So many ways to boost your character. And we're going to add even more with perks from questing. So now when you beat the main quest, you're going to get something from it. You beat the main quest, what do you get from it? The Axe of Whiterun, a steel axe from Balgruuf or whatever. This way, you beat the main quest, you now have the Dragon Slayer perk. You always deal 15% more damage to dragons, which ties back into the dragon endgame. Once you beat the main quest, the end game essentially unlocks. You now have a reason to go hunt dragons. You do more damage to dragons. These perks are just going to expand on our vampire and werewolf players and give them just so many more things to use perk points on and so many different play styles. Compared to vanilla, these two mods blow vanilla out of the water. This is a little mod I added in because I'm a fan of magic, but I think wards are a little too much of a mana suck. Fire and Forget wards does exactly what it says. You just throw up a ward and it's like a shield in front of you, but it only works in the part that you're facing, so you kind of have to play around using a ward like a wall between you and your opponent rather than just holding your hand up and draining your magicka. It's important, I want to note, Hard to Swallow and First Aid. These two mods are going to change the way that you play the game drastically. Hard to Swallow makes it so you can't just chug potions anymore. You can't open up your inventory and down 5 health potions. When you drink a potion, it has a 5-second timer that'll count down and give you regenerative points, but your next potion won't work if that timer is activated. So you can't chug 3 potions in a row. You have to chug a potion, wait 5 seconds, chug another potion, and you're going to get health back over those 10 seconds. First Aid is going to give us something that no other mod has done before. in the same vein as Wildcat, a hugely popular mod that everyone swears by to this day, is an injury system. And this can be toggled on and off if you want. It's a very easy mod to start. You have to go to Riverwood, and right by Alvor on his table, you'll see a book. This book will, when you read it, activate the system. So if you don't want first aid, you don't want injuries, just don't read the book. You don't even have to go get it. But what this does is that when you take damage and start to become injured, you'll have debuffs that can't be fixed through magic or healing. You have to, or drinking potions, you have to go craft bandages and let them heal. And bandages cannot be used in a combat scenario. So you have to leave, go somewhere, rest up, and recover. This area is now, we're in items and crafting. These are going to change so much of how you play the crafting system. So instead of just endlessly making iron daggers just to craft a better sword that does a little bit more damage, now you have the option of crafting throwing weapons. You have traps, you have bombs, you have backpacks that have better recipes that are more lore friendly. They each have different buffs, and they fill different niches. So again, just another bonus to specific types of playstyles. These two mods are to redo the recipes that we all know. So what this does is this mod specifically makes quest items, like the Nightingale armor. You can now create replicas of it, which will be slightly weaker versions of the original, which I just love. I want lore-friendly mods. I don't just want access to everything, and I want you, the player, to feel rewarded for completing things. An alternative to this, though, is I highly recommend Recolored Replica by Cyan49. It takes every weapon, essentially, all the unique weapons, gives them brand new colors, and allows you to craft them using gold, I believe, off the top of my head. There's so many weapons in that mod that look so much better than their vanilla counterparts. I hope one day to create a level-less mod change to force these recolored replicas out into the world, so you'll come across a glass sword that's red and stuff like that, with very, very cool stuff. This mod is essentially doing the same thing by letting you make replicas of certain items, but it's covering the Creation Club items that are added. So you won't be able to craft the what do you call these guys? Like, you need a skull mask in order to create the necromancer hoods and stuff like that. You'll need to be part of. You have to have an amulet of Stendar to craft vigilant armor. Very cool stuff. Just makes you think as a player about how to craft. You can't just stare at a forge and start massively crafting things. You have to explore, you have to find things, you have to gain knowledge and become a better crafter. And you're rewarded from that with weapons that are scaled with your crafting level. So if you want to be a artificer type, which is a character build I've been trying to get made for a long time, this is the mod for you. Tinker is a mod that is a port. It covers a lot of different systems, but I'm using it mainly to de-level all unique items. So when you find them, they're always at their strongest. You don't have to wait around to get Chillrend at its strongest level or whatever. And also changes some of the merchant shops inventories to have things like screws and miscellaneous items that you may need that a crafter would have. These are always subject to change as new mods come out, and how they are compatible is still being worked out. But at the time being, it seems like everything here is working as intended. And it really helps is this mod, alternative smithing categories. This makes it so instead of like iron, steel, ebony, you'll now have greatsword, heavy armor, light armor, daggers, stuff like that. It's all organized by what they are rather than the type that they are. I think it looks visually better, and it's a little bit more easy to get to what you want to craft. And then we have dragons. This is part of that end game I'm talking about. I want dragons to be mean. I want them to be scary. Splendor is going to make dragons look as different as possible using every combination of the vanilla assets. They'll have different strengths too, and we're going to combine it with, actually, I'm going to bump this down. I want to make sure this wins out any arguments over Splendor. Realistic dragon size, we're going to make dragons huge. We want them to be scary. We want them to be cool. They also get buff stats. Now, there's no description on how buffed they are, but they should be more of a challenge, and if they're too challenging or broken or something, it'll probably warrant changing. Another mod I want to add to the list, if I have the space, which I might just do it. I think I'll do it just to show you guys how the process is like. I'm going to add impact. This mod is, again, I just want dragons to be fucking cool. We want dragons to be scary and cool. So realistic impacts. This is a mod that'll make it so when like a dragon flaps its wings or lands on the ground, or a giant hits you with his hammer or something like that, there's people going to be sent flying. Your followers can't just run around to the back of the dragon and hit it from the butt while nothing happens to them. Now they will be affected by a system like this where the movement of the dragon itself will cause them to be ragdolled. We're going to favorite it, and we're going to add it to the list later because we're still in testing phases. We want to make sure everything here is working. That's the most important part. We can't just throw mods in here just because we want them. We got to make sure everything's working first and subtract mods as we go. So past dragon sizes, now we're in past new items and crafting. If you're following a cheat sheet, now we're in the followers. This is just going to add a lot more to the game. You have the option of having more followers. You have new types of followers. This mod is going to make it so the new pets, specifically combat type pets like the bone wolf and the dwemer crab, will now actually participate in combat and have an effect. Particularly, a big favorite of mine is the dwemer mud crab. Now has the stats equivalent to a full set of dwarven armor, which can be boosted if you know the ancient knowledge. If you go through the ancient knowledge quest. So now you just have this like little crab with this Iron Man armor, and he's very effective in combat. I find that very, very cool. And then next we have some outfit swaps. This is just to give the companions, the Silverhand, every faction that you see in the game, more variety in their outfits, and take advantage of the new things that are in the Creation Club. And it's a mod that you see right off the bat, but your brain just thinks it's always been that way. Like, this is how they should have looked. And on that note, I'm also adding in Simply Integrated Civil War Champions by Cyan49. I love what this mod does. There's kind of like a bug with it that I want to keep intentional, where what this mod does is it changes soldiers in the Civil War to use the Civil War Champions armor. Ideally, I could convince Cyan to have a system in place where the armors aren't all exactly the same. Like, there should be some should spawn without helmets, some should spawn without gauntlets, stuff like that. Just give them even more variety in between themselves, because at the moment, all the soldiers in a band walking along will wear the exact same armor set. But it helps differentiate someone that is in the Civil War from a hold guard, where I feel like the Stormcloak armor was just, and Imperial armor was just leftover guard armor with recolors. So the bug that tends to happen sometimes is that there are soldiers that won't be affected by this. I don't know exactly what causes it, but there will be soldiers that do spawn in without the Civil War, the CC champion armor. So now you'll see like ranks along the Civil War. There are people in essentially guard armor, which you could say is guards being conscripted from holds into the war. There are people with Civil War champions armor. These are obviously like big bruiser types. These people are a part of the war, stuff like that. It just adds a lot, adds a lot to the immersion. Pardon me, I need a drink. And this list is mainly about immersion. I want you to turn off the HUD. That's what I do. I turn off HUD opacity and crosshair. I want to see everything. I want to enjoy the look and the experience. And then we get to this is an interesting little area, because be subject to change a lot. This mod I just added is very, very cool. Um, we want enemies to be more difficult. We want new ways to combat enemies, but we also have to give enemies new, interesting ways to be combated. So with this, we have Silver List expansion. This makes it so silver weapons have an expanded list of enemies they're effective against. As someone that prefers the Demon Hunter type characters, this is just more towards my personal playstyle. It makes silver weapons a lot more useful. Bestiary is going to give certain enemy types specific weaknesses, like mammoths are frost resistant. Makes a little bit more sense. You have to use your head a little bit to think. You shouldn't use fire on an ash hopper. It's weak to frost. And on top of that, we're going to add weather resistances because I want the player to also have to experience at least a part of this system. You probably don't want to fight a shocking mage in a rainy weather because you're going to take 20% bonus damage, but you'll be 20% stronger against a fire mage. Just little tiny changes like that make you have to think, and anytime you have to think, I feel like the game is easier to be invested in and more immersive. Violence is a great mod. I think everyone should have this mod. There is some incompatibility with You Must Die 2, but with some setting changes in game, they're borderline 100% compatible. The main reason you want to use this mod is I personally like to switch it so there's no slow-mo and that kill moves are in third person always. You can also change it so that the kill moves are mixed, so you'll have like a greatsword using a dagger animation, or just have it straight match. So a greatsword uses a greatsword animation. I like to switch between them sometimes. I'm personally a fan of a match, but sometimes mix is cool because you can get like a dagger animation with fists. So you like grab them by the back of the head and uppercut them like 4 times. It's very, very cool stuff. Simple difficulty, I got to throw this on the list because You Must Die 2, the gameplay overhaul, it has so many mods in it, and one of the systems in place in You Must Die 2, and you will see this in a book in your inventory as well, is they have difficulty scaling. In the default Bethesda Skyrim, when you play on Adept, you're doing 1-to-1 damage. You do 1 times damage, your opponent does 1 times damage. But if you wanted to play on Expert or Legendary, you're doing 0.25. You're doing a fourth of your damage while enemies are doing 3 times amount. And it's just not fun to play where you feel like nerfed. It's not fun. You Must Die 2 changes that by giving different scaling to the difficulties, but even then I felt like it was relying a little bit too heavy on these like decimals and whatnot. Simple difficulty, it does exactly what it says. Makes all levels of difficulty, you do 1 times damage. You will always do the damage you're meant to do, but your opponents will do more and more damage. So it's just a little bit more fair. You're not nerfed. You can see how your build is because it's doing 100% of what it should do rather than a fourth of the damage it should do. And you're still getting that challenge where you know that even a weak opponent, once you use the knowledge that you've gained from playing for a long time, could do 3 times the damage. Somebody with a steel dagger still might hurt you. You got to watch out. Wear multiple rings. I think this is a great mod. The placement on it is pretty important. I've put it in this exact spot because sometimes when I move it up and down, you won't be able to get multiple rings on. In this specific spot, I haven't had any issues, but you also have to take note that rings of the same type, like if you're looking at it and it's visually looks like a ring with a ruby in it, you can't wear that with a ring that has that exact same model. The game will know that you're using essentially the same ring. You have to always use like a ruby ring with a sapphire ring. That'll work. And then we're down towards the bottom. This is miscellaneous stuff and visuals. Increased blood amount is awesome. It's way better than the More Blood and Gore mod that's been out forever. It's just you'll see blood all over the ground, all over the sword when you're fighting, and combine that with combat sound and attack impact tweak. It's a great mod just because you're tired of the clang clang, this and that. This mod changes it so weapon impacts and weapon swinging have much more realistic sounds, and when you hit somebody, you'll get a blood effect, letting you know that you've made contact. Rain and snow, it's just another miscellaneous atmospheric thing. You're in cold weather, you're going to see snow. I think that's very cool. True Alteration Armor Visuals is one of my favorite mods of all time. This is a base game thing. This is in vanilla Skyrim. They took it out for some reason. But it makes it so when you cast a flesh spell like Oak Flesh, you'll have an oak body visual effect all over you. And it makes using the flesh spells just so much cooler. I really love that. Spell Light Dynamic Shadows, very important mod. I think it's really cool because when you have these instances where you don't have a torch, and I had the Mage Light spell, or Candlelight, the one that floats above your head, but it was a little too bright. I was kind of nitpicky. I didn't want to cast it, but was holding the spell in my left hand. And while I was holding it in my left hand, I was able to hold it out in front of me without casting it, just charging it, and essentially use it like a flashlight. Very, very cool. Anything that lets you have like complex interactions with the game and let you think outside the box is extremely important to the overall mod list, and that's why Spelllight Dynamic Shadows will always be in the mod list. Animated Weapon Enchants. Now this mod, I've been working on a patch for it specifically because it doesn't work with Thaumaturgy out of the box, but I'm working on a patch to get it working. So at the moment, I kind of like and don't like what happens because of that, because you'll see is that the vanilla enchantments in Skyrim have these new animated effects. It looks very cool. But some of the new effects by Thaumaturgy, like Weakness to Fire, will have the old vanilla animations, and it doesn't look as good as animated weapon enchants, but because there's a differential between them, I'm able to mentally keep track of what I'm using and how it's different. So I could have a weapon that does Weakness to Fire in my left hand and a weapon that does fire damage in my right hand, and I know looking at it that the weapon in my left hand is going to do weakness. Now, when I patch it and fix it, they should have the same animations, but I don't know. A part of me kind of wants to keep it the same way. I will need some other people's testing and opinions on it. Here we have, this is a huge section that I'm dedicating time to itself. This is on Be Very of A's mods. These are world enhancements. These are visual mods. These are sound mods. These are lighting mods. Texture replacers. They really cover everything. The road signs, lampposts, the general overhaul. It overhauls Skyrim in every possible way, and they're merges. Most of these are merges of different mods, so you're saving so much mod space just using all the different Be Very of A's packages, and they are meant to be put in a very specific order. And this is an order I got from him directly. I've been trying to keep it in this order. Now I move the block of these mods, there's about 8, I think, up and down the list, trying to get them in the exact order to be compatible with everything else. But at the moment, having them all towards the bottom has worked out great. So you have 13's Beaten Path. This is adding road signs, carriages. There's going to be underwater treasures. The roads are prettier. There's new player homes. Clef Jeffs and JK Skyrim, these are all by Be Very of A, and they're meant to be in this exact order. You can see, make sure you're reading the descriptions, loads below JK's. So you see Volume 1, Volume 2, JK's in between. Dreamweaver, these are mods that I've added in. This is for the endgame and for guilds. They have to be in this particular spot because they do have a conflict with the overhauls that Be Very of A has made, but he has also made patches for Dreamweaver and works directly with Cyan 49 often to make sure that these mods can cohabitate. So you have Dreamweaver, then you have the patch. This is going to apply and make Ports of Call compatible with all of the changes that Be Very of A has made with JK Skyrim and Clef Jeffs. We have some more patches. Rin's Skyrim. This is port of a mod author off of Nexus. It does some really amazing stuff. It makes the standing stones more diverse and interesting. So you'll see in the playthrough, but the first place you go for the standing stones right outside Riverwood, That location has changed. There's more to see. There's more to get. There's like little items in place, and it'll just make that early game that we've all done a million times look and feel different without making you feel lost. Quaint Collection, this is a mod of player homes that are scattered all throughout Skyrim. You have to find them. They have very, very different styles. I saw a dwarven home near Falkreath. That was very, very cool. I'm not personally a fan of player homes. I don't typically care for them, but I do want places to put things. So if you like collecting player homes and like putting things in tons of places, you have so many different houses. But to be honest, I'm actually going to drop this from the list and get that mod slot back. Clean up the map a little bit, clean up some of the areas. There may or may not be incompatibilities with the other overworld mods that we've made that we've chosen. So I've actually chosen just now to drop that mod entirely. There's so many new houses added by CC that are very cool. I'm not technically going to miss it. JK's Interior, this is a very important mod. This is the newer version, which I was initially using JK's Interior along with 2 additional patches. He's consolidated them down into just this one mod. Then he has Be Very Ave also has a version of Realm of Lorcon himself, of Lorcon. There are 5 or 6 different versions of it. I 100% recommend the original by Possessed Lemon. Why is because everybody has made their own little changes, mostly to the assortment of free items that you can get in the game in Realm. But uh, uh, the point is to use the original is that you get access to a ton of free items, which you can totally choose not to use. It is up to you. You have access to, and the most important part is these boons that will let you make your build even better earlier on. You don't want to wait to get health regen and different perks to round out your knight build. There's a knight boon that gives you increased two-handed damage and health regeneration. There's a boon. You want to play as a bard. There's a boon that gives you speech and bardic knowledge spell that lets you play a drum to boost allies. There's like 9 or 12 boons I'm trying to remember off the top of my head that all do something very, very different and unique. Personal hard mode favorite of mine is the uh, um, peasant boon. So there are curses and boons. You can pick something that gives you an upgrade and helps you along, or you can pick something that gives you a detriment and makes the game harder. I find that the balance is that for every class or boon that you take, you should take at least one curse or detrimental effect, just to make the game a little bit more fun. If you want to take 2 classes and hybrid a class, like I've done a combination of a monk using the scholar class, which gets more knowledge, you get more skill points from books, with the trickster or thieves class, I think it was, which gives you damage reflection and movement speed. So I was weaving in and out and reflecting damage back and learning and reading from books to gain levels. There's just so much to add. The amount of items that you can get that you don't have to use is insane. I hate starting the game off with absolutely nothing. If I want to play the game as a vigil, then I should be able to I should pick a class, a boon that gives me bonus undead damage. I can pick a standing stone that gives me bonus undead damage. I can then buy or find some leather cheap armor in the realm, and then I can start the game with my character essentially built. There's just endless possibilities, and Realm of Lacron gives you the choice of choosing where you start, skips the vanilla intro. It's just a perfect mod, honestly. I think this is, without a doubt, the best mod on PlayStation. If you could only have one mod, I think it should be Realm of Lacron, just because of there's so many things it adds to your game. The one issue, and a lot of people have with it, and why there are so many versions of it, is that when you teleport out, you will be able to see the crystals that you teleported to in the overworld. So what? Some people need those to be removed because it's detracting, but as someone that wants the game to be as immersive as possible. Honestly, just seeing these giant crystals that people don't understand laying around are pretty cool. Plus, if you know the lore of Skyrim, it's very much in lore that you, as the reincarnation of Shor, I believe, or Talos, I can't remember, would have access to. You're the reincarnation of Lacron, of course. You would have access to his realm and be able to freely teleport from place to place. This is another reduction. BVerivE originally had 13 Skyrim add-ons, and now it is consolidated down into this. So you want this mod file specifically, extra JK Skyrim add-ons, not JK Skyrim add-ons. This is a new mod. This is a mod I want to highlight because it is supposedly, as you can see, compatible with JK's interiors and is even more interior reworking done on parts that BVerivE hasn't touched. Now, I haven't been able to find any specific bugs or crashing, but I am testing by going to each of these places listed to see what is different and to see if there's any slowdown, crashing, bugs, missing textures, etc. So this mod is in flux. It may or may not be part of the list going forward, but if it works as intended, I think it'll be a mainstay when you combine it with all BVerivEs. We're talking every house, every hole, every road, every tree, every dungeon, everything has been touched. Everything has been altered. Everything has been changed to look better without making it so new that you feel like you have no idea what you're doing anymore and you're playing a new game. It is still Skyrim, but it's the best version of Skyrim. And right at the end, this is wrapping up. We're still in the atmosphere, audio, and lighting. Barebones Morrowind Ultimate, I've moved down to the bottom here because it is a level list mod and should go towards the top, but there are some intricacies with it because so many mods have these unlisted changes. Like the version of Adamant that we're running on PlayStation 4 has changes to weapon values, armor values, level lists, and encounter zones. So if I place Barebones Morrowind Ultimate above it, there's a chance that Adamant is going to overwrite the changes made by it and essentially make Morrowind Ultimate not as effective at doing what it should do. And what this does is take it so anything above glass is gone. You won't find it in a chest. You want Dragonbone, you want Daedric, you want that stuff. You have to find it, you have to craft it, and it's part of the end game. This also is going towards de-leveling quest rewards. So whatever mod. There are 3 mods that are covering that, actually. I should go back and double check and make sure that these mods are all compatible. Awesome artifacts, changes, some of the de-leveling, and I know it has a incompatibility with Morrowind Ultimate. I'm trying to remember. I believe there is a chance that some Draugr will still spawn with Ebony level equipment, which, not the worst thing. Just taking notes of this. Awesome artifacts, bare bones, and the crafting mod that we added, Tinkerer, I believe. And I'll double check after this is done. All of those are affecting unleveling items, and I just want to make sure that it's not going to cause a problem later on when I'm trying to have a long running game. And it's important to take notes on this stuff. When you're playing the game, you notice something like that, write it down, take note of it, see if it comes up again. That's part of this process. And I can't express enough how much your feedback, the people watching this, affects the mod list and affects all the videos going forward, because this is a mod list for you. It's meant for you to enjoy. It's meant for you to change. And I've stated multiple times in comments and stuff that by changing the mod list, you make it so I can't help you. But what I'm trying to do is give you the information you need to make a mod list yourself. But I also want you to have a good starting point. And I think that when everything is worked out and the Skyrim PlayStation overhaul is bug-free, it'll be the essential way to play on a PlayStation. I've been going up and down the mods list trying to detract mods and make it better to download, faster, and everything. But I've gone through this list over and over and over, and I'm going to keep doing that. And I am just having a harder and harder time trimming the fat. We are at 97, I believe, or 96 because we did just delete a mod, Quaint Collection, uh, which is a lot. It's a lot. Ideally, you want under 80. That is the goal. There's just like this mythical uh, stability number that you want to reach where like having less than 80 mods won't put such a strain on your system. And then right here at the end, we're just finishing up with more B-Varies mods. These have to go in the order that they are. If you're wondering why my Skyrim looks as good as it does, it is because of this. This is Dark Hearts of Azeroth, or Hearts of Azeroth 3.0. Oh, sorry, Wounded Hearts of Azeroth. I was originally using Dark Heart. But yeah, these are the four mods at the bottom. They are going to make the game look as good as it does, the weather look as good as it is, sounds to be clear. You'll have new sliders in your sound settings, so you can adjust the sounds in game to be more to what you want. But yeah, that basically covers every mod I wanted to talk about and the general gist of Skyrim PlayStation Overhaul and the idea behind why mods go where they are. So real quick, just before the end here, I just want to go off the top. The cheat sheet you want to follow are you want to put your tweaks and mods like Unofficial Creation Club and Survival Rebalance. These are ESL, I believe, so they are always going to be on the very top. So then you have tweaks, you have your race mods, level list changes, perks, combat and AI, world changes, dungeons, new items, your crafting, followers, outfit swaps, etc., miscellaneous, effects, blood, sound, atmosphere, audio, and lighting in that order. If you follow this, you will have a much easier time figuring out what is and is not working in your mod list. And I cannot believe how long I have been talking. This is insane. I doubt anyone is going to watch this, but if you have, I'm going to add timestamps down below on the different mods and what they do. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, for wanting to play this Skyrim PlayStation Overhaul. And I hope that you take time to tell me how it was for you and tell me what problems you're having with it so that we together can craft an even better Skyrim experience. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.